Hello, my name is Nina, and together with my classmates, I made a book about the sheep Dolly. As we know, this year is the 25th anniversary of the sheep Dolly, so let's find out more details about who is Dolly, who made her, and how is she created. It's important to say that our Dolly the sheep, the one we are talking about, does not have any common links with a popular country singer Dolly Parton. Dolly was born on the 15th of July 1996. She was a proud citizen of Scotland, and even today we can find her in the National Museum of Scotland. Her species is Finnish Dorset domestic sheep, and her parents were Finn Dorset sheep and Scottish blackface. I think that we can all agree that the most important question is who made Dolly. Scientists that managed to clone such a cute sheep that is in the same time strong evidence of technology development were Kit Campbell and Ian Wilmot. On the link below, we can see how ABC News presented Dolly to the world.
The headline on the other major news story today, to which we intend to devote some time, is very simple. Hello, Dolly. It's a very long time since a science story on Sunday made such waves on Monday, but with good reason. Dolly is the name of the first mammal, yes, a sheep, ever to be born as the result of cloning. Cloned from an adult sheep in a laboratory. Dolly is doing fine, thank you. She is 7 months old already. And from the scientific community to the water cooler, we human beings have had a future, or seen a future at least, that had only been imagined up until now. If a lamb, why not a man? Our first report from ABC's John McKenzie.
Dolly is without question a normal, healthy, genetic marvel. She's an identical copy of an older sheep.
People expected that maybe at some time it would happen, but maybe we've been a little bit quicker than they expected.
Dr. Ian Wilmot and his team of Scottish researchers began with a 6-year-old sheep. They took a single cell from her mammary gland, including its nucleus, the command center containing all the genes, the DNA, that determine the sheep's individual physical characteristics, eyes, nose, hair. Then they took an egg from a second sheep, removed its nucleus, and replaced it with a cell from that first sheep. The egg and its new nucleus then fused together, turning into an embryo, but with all the genetic characteristics of the first sheep and none of the second. In effect, a carbon copy, an exact duplicate of the first. All that was left was to put this developing embryo into a third sheep, a host sheep, which carried it to term.
The key to this experiment was to induce the genetic information of a very specialized cell from an adult, in this case a mammary gland cell, to go back through development to produce an entire new animal.
What has caused such a shudder in the worldwide scientific community is that so many scientists doubted it could ever be done. They had tried to clone frogs and then mice, and without success. This latest research on sheep did not rely on any revolutionary new technology. In fact, many in vitro fertilization clinics use the same equipment. But it's clear this cloning technique still requires some refinement.
We've succeeded in setting up a system which will work sometimes, but we don't remotely begin to understand why. It just happens from time to time.
Wilmot says it took nearly 300 tries to create this one lamb. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
We came to the most complex part about creating Dolly. It is the process of cloning. If you want to clone someone, you will need a donor nucleus and an egg cell. Later on, you fuse these two cells using electric shock. The fused cell will begin to divide normally, and in the end you will have an embryo ready to be placed in a foster parent. Dolly was the only embryo out of 29 that survived, and there were about 277 tries. Dolly was living only 7 years, but her impact on the science will live forever. She suffered from pneumonia, arthrosis, and early stages of lung cancer, It was common sense to euthanize her so she can no longer be in pain. She was euthanized on February 14th, 2003. Main reason that is above all her diseases is age of her DNA. Dolly was a proud mother that had 6 lambs. They were Rosie, Cotton, Darcy, Lucy, Bonnie, and Sally. Her stuffed remains are located in Science and Technology Gallery in the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh.
Every year, we, as a human society, are advancing more and more with the help of science and technology. Along with other innovations, cloning has also been made possible and has enabled us to explore a whole new set of possibilities. However, the ethical problems it poses should also be taken into consideration. This very issue will be discussed in today's debate. Let's begin.
First of all, human cloning would add more discrimination to already segregated society, because if it were widespread, more and more people would feel the need to clone children, and therefore society will be divided into cloned and non-cloned people, and in a world full of cloned children, uncloned ones would feel very discriminated.
Well, that might be true, but in today's society, more and more couples are struggling with infertility, so human cloning could help infertile people and also same-sex couples to have children from clone cells.
But why would you clone children if you can just adopt them?
Well, an adoption is a good option too, but a vast majority of people want to see a part of themselves in their children, and there is also a possibility that the adopted child feels like a black sheep in the family or experiences some form of abuse and mistreatment.
Not to mention that by the use of human cloning, we could also use specific human cells to grow specific human organs, which could be compatible with the recipient's body, and we would no longer rely on donating organs, which is a very long and a very hard process. To add, human cloning could also make us remove bad genes from humans, which could make us healthier, and we could be less exposed to some diseases, also viral infections or maybe even cancer. This may result in less pandemics or pandemics that are of a lesser extent, and this would be better for the economy and the social life.
That's a possibility, but if cloning and gene modification become frequent, they will probably negatively change the human gene pool, and thus make us more prone to different diseases. It is also important to point out that scientists can't precisely predict how it will affect human race, but also nature in general. We also think that human cloning goes against the laws of nature, because normally it isn't present in the natural world.
Another thing is, wouldn't human cloning create an even greater gap between social classes? And what I mean by that is that only the people of higher social statuses would be able to afford, for example, as you said, cloned organ transplantations or any kind of similar medical procedures. And we just think it would not be fair if only a small percentage of people would benefit from cloning, and in this case, only the wealthiest members of society would be in that position.
Yes, your group has some good points, but I would like to introduce one of the most obvious arguments for human cloning, and that would be genetic research. It would help scientists in gene editing, which is considered a very useful scientific method nowadays. They could find solutions for curing certain diseases and some other complications. For example, they could get closer to understanding the nature of miscarriage. Also, gene editing might even fix some mistakes or replace certain cells, and that will help, let's say, handicapped people so they could walk again or use damaged body parts again. And I personally think that's something very significant for human society.
As we could see, both sides have had good arguments that supported their opinions well. While one side is in favor of human cloning and has introduced us to its great potential, the other side has mentioned various problems that would arise from this very process. Whose side do you support?